Okay, I am recording on my new laptop, the one I use for gaming, on OBS, Open Broadcaster Studio. That's not this name. Open Broadcaster something. I completely forgot its name. But you can get it for free online. I don't know if it's going to be choppy or not, because I tried recording Terraria with it and it was very laggy and choppy. But since this is just a tier list, it doesn't matter as long as my voice comes through just fine. We're going to start off with SS. Again, it's a sad day to see a new gun enter this rank. If you haven't watched the other videos, then you're not going to know the ranks. And I go over them every video. And SS is the best rank a gun can have in terms of being strong. SS is completely overpowered. The gun needs nerfs, and it wouldn't even hurt to just remove the gun from the game for a while. Just completely remove it from the game and balance it. I did have another video before this that I didn't record, so some of the guns did get moved around and you won't know it. But we're just going to go over today's changes. The P90 enters SS. Back in Alpha, this gun was probably the best gun in the game outside of the M60. It was hands down overpowered. You could snipe with it. I used to run it with an ACOG canted iron, and I would destroy everyone with it. And it's back. It's not as powerful as it was back in Alpha, but it is still very strong. I run it with a compensator folding grip, and you can decimate people with this. I ran it on Construction Mall, the second worst map in the game, and I held the stairwell for the whole game. I think I was almost 70 kills when the game ended. I was just decimating the entire enemy team. I at one point just killed 4 people straight up. Like, the gun is broken. That's all there is to it. This comes out of S, where it was sitting before I decided to put it in SS, since I wanted to make sure it is overpowered, and it definitely is. Now on to S. Now, S tier is overperforming. It's way too strong. These guns need to be changed. Honestly, the Para does not belong here. It should not be here. It's not S material anymore. We do see the SKS being brought out of A+. I simply made this change because I thought back to when I was using the SKS, and it definitely is S material. Folding grip, Cobra sight, green laser, muzzle brake, and you can do amazing things with this gun. The versatility is crap. It's not going to do much without a folding grip. But this is not a versatility list. This is a pure power list. And the G18, which it's a good day because the G18 is no longer SS tier. The only reason is because the M9 is so much better. The M9 is hands down the best handgun in the game. It doesn't have the fire rate of the G18. And it does not have the one-shot capability of the Rex, Serbu, and I think the Deagle one-shots eventually have yet to have that happen. But it doesn't have that capability. What it does have is a stupid amount of accuracy to it. I mean, muzzle brake, laser, and then the sight of your choice, and you essentially have a second primary if you hit your shots. It's a good aim. It's a good gun to aim down sights with. It's a good gun to just hip fire with. It's a great gun overall. And that's the only reason the G18 is not in SS. Because if I had to pick between the M9 and the G18, the M9 has saved my ass more times than the G18 has. Both of them are really good guns, but the M9 just beats it out because it doesn't even have to get within lethal range of it. I mean, the M9 can outshoot some snipers. Like, you can, if you're skilled enough, you can outshoot a sniper with the M9. And that's the only reason the G18 cannot be in SS anymore. And on to uh, A+, which is above the point of balance. These guns are not breaking the game at the moment. They do need some changes and some nerfs. Maybe not direct nerfs themselves, just adding in a different gun may make them more or less viable. It just all depends. You're going to see all of the AUGs in this tree. Like all three. Basically, the AUGs are all the same. The A3 and the A2 all came up out of A, and the A1 came out of S. They're essentially the same thing. Probably, I think they just have slightly varying stats. And the A1 has a scope where the A2 and A3 don't. But they're pretty much the same gun, performance-wise. I seem to do nicely with all three. I'll probably go through and play with them again. I'll have to use the A1 since I've been using the A2 and A3. And they pretty much all feel the same, just different names and different looks. The AG3 coming out of S, this gun has dominated. I use this gun, and I called it an SMG battle rifle damage model in an SMG format. I still feel that way. The only thing that made me change my mind is apparently it got nerfed. The recoil is much higher than what it was before. And now that makes it a lot more balanced, as you're going to have to take your time at range, but up close you're not going to see much of a difference, honestly. Like if I'm close range, like actual SMG range, I'm not really going to be missing that many more shots. However, at longer range, I am going to have to tap fire now. And that definitely brought it down to a more balanced state. The MP7 coming out of S to A. The only reason for this change, the same with the G18, is the P90 is so much better. The MP7 is like a mini P90. That's basically what it is. It's like you can kill people with this gun just fine, but you're going to be limited to 2 or 3 kills per mag on average, while the P90 can have double that. And that's the only reason we see this in A+. Otherwise, it would probably still be sitting in S. And if the P90 was in the game, it might even be SS tier. The L86 coming out of S. The only reason for this change is recoil and magazine capacity. The lowest magazine capacity of all the machine guns. In my opinion, currently the most balanced machine gun. I ran this myself. It does not have aimbot accuracy or recoil. It's a difficult to use weapon at best. It takes a little bit of skill, and while still being a little overpowered like all of the other machine guns, it still is pretty effective. Or it still is like fairly balanced, I mean. G36 also coming out of S tier. The gun does not perform in S tier. It's an A+ tier, like through and through, but it's not S tier quality. Like there are other assault rifles that will outdo it, and even the Scar H will beat it. The Para coming out of S. I have used this gun. I even had to play King of the Hill on Highway, and I went 20-0 with it. It's an amazing gun in the right hands. The only problem is you have to run it stealth. Again, this is not a versatility list, but the fact that you cannot run it loud effectively. You could do it, but its magazine capacity limits it to a stealth roll only. If we're talking about a P90, it doesn't matter if you're losing that accuracy that a muzzle brake or compensator will give you. You're still going to just be able to mow through people out of sheer ammo capacity. But the Para has half that ammo of the P90. And it hurts it. I can kill 2, if I'm lucky and they line up, 3 people at best with each clip. And at long range, the gun falls off hard. Your accuracy is very limited. I run it with a folding grip personally, and I use a suppressor because I'm running it stealth. And the gun performs amazingly up close. It has a 34 max damage. I think that's the highest max damage of all the SMGs currently. Don't quote me, but I think it's definitely one of the highest. I can promise you that. It has a super high base damage, but it does drop off pretty hard. It goes down to, I think, 17 with an PBS1 suppressor. But up close, it will decimate one or two enemies if you can control your recoil. That's another thing. Its recoil is difficult to control unless you have a little bit of experience with it. Otherwise, it's an amazing stealth gun, and it will remain a very good stealth gun. And just to clarify, when I'm saying stealth, I'm talking of an aggressive, silenced weapon. Some people might not understand the terminology of it, but basically put a suppressor on your gun, get behind the enemy, you're playing stealth now. That's basically all it is. Just an aggressive silencer. Now we come down to balance, which also has some changes to it. The MP5K coming out of A+. The only reason is because its recoil is actually very high. It has a high recoil now compared to what it was in Alpha. The Alpha recoil was non-existent. Think of the FAMAS. It had lower recoil than that. But now, it's definitely no longer as overpowered as it was. It definitely falls into a more balanced gun now, and I like that. Hopefully it'll stay balanced. The MP10 coming out of B+. I have been running this gun recently, and it's absolute garbage at long range. It's kind of like the Para, except harder to use. I run it stealth, and I run it with a folding grip like I do all other high recoil guns. And it is still very difficult to use. But it fills the stealth role very nicely. I don't think we would see it on a professional level, but it's not underpowered in the least. It definitely has a place in the game, and I definitely feel comfortable saying it's balanced. The L22 coming out of A+, I originally put it there for its fire rate, and the fire rate kills it now. The fact that you can't have a folding grip really hurts it. Now you have to decide whether you want to deal with vertical recoil or horizontal recoil. You can't compensate for both like with the P90. You're just screwed with the gun. It really hurts it that you cannot run a grip on it. That recoil is what's going to hurt the gun. Its fire rate hurts it now. I mean, if you want to run it, it's still a good gun, but you'll be better off with some of the other ones. The M93R coming out of A+. I have been running this gun a lot now. I have mastered the Rex, the M9, I think the M9, and definitely the G18. And so I'm starting to run other handguns. And the M93R is a nice weapon, and while its burst fire is definitely useful up close, it sucks. I mean, it has a high recoil to it. Like, even with a suppressor or just running it stock with just a laser, it has a very high recoil that makes it hard to hit with. The burst is the only redeeming quality of it. I don't like burst personally, but when you're close range, it kind of makes a big difference. The G36C coming out of A+, it just matches the G36 change. That's basically what it is. The G36C is basically like, it's the carbine variant. It's not as powerful and fills a stealth role better, but I just feel the G36 can stand up into just fair combat a lot better. And the M16A4 coming out of B+. This is just to go with the burst change. You can kind of choose how much you want to burst. And I ran it burst earlier, and it was actually very controllable. I actually liked it. I'd rather have the AN94 burst over it, but I still feel the M16 is a balanced gun now. And we go down to B+, which are guns that are weak. Also, A is balanced. I don't need to explain that. B+ are just guns that are weak. They need a small buff or a change. We'll see what happens in the future with them. And there's no changes here. We go down to B tier. These are guns that are just bad. Like, they suck. Also, the MP10 actually came out of B+. I forgot to put that there. The MP510 came out of B+. The only reason? It sucks. The recoil is very high. I run a suppressor, and I don't have the folding grip yet. But it has a stupidly high recoil behind it. it just sucks. I don't like using it. And the Serbu is back down to B tier because after using it for a while, it doesn't perform like all the other shotguns. It's just not great. And honestly, I hope it stays this low. I hope it just gets removed. It's just the concept is nice, but you're carrying a shotgun. You're basically carrying a literal secondary primary. Like I say the M9, the G18 are primaries in the secondary slot, but they don't one-shot you. The Rex does. The Serbu does. And we can argue that the Tech 9 does it too because it just fires so damn fast. But however you want to put it, the Serbu just sucks right now. Like, it's used for point blank. That's it. Like, if you need point blank defense, the Serbu's great. The Tech 9 would probably be better, though. But if we're talking about anything that isn't practically point blank, the gun's worthless. It's worth nothing. It sucks. And that's that for this video. Hopefully I'll make more on this computer. Hopefully the video isn't too choppy. And that's basically what this is. There are no guns in C, D, or X tier, but just to explain those, and B tier, I didn't explain that, sorry. B tier are guns that just suck, essentially. They're just bad. They need to be buffed or changed. Something has to happen. C tier are literal guns that are underpowered. It takes a very skilled player and a very specific set of attachments to run the gun. I mean, that specific set of attachments has to be used to make the gun somewhat viable in some role. And D tier is quite literally broken. The hammer is, I think, the only one to hold that tier so far, like has ever been in it. These are guns that do have something wrong with them, like their accuracy is broken, like their damage is, there's inconsistent damage with it. It's just the gun is almost unusable even in master's hands. But that's that for, I think, episode 6. I'm not 100% sure. I'll find out when I post it. And hopefully I can use more varied guns as I play. And I will come back, update the list, and hopefully more guns will have migrated out of S and SS into A and A+. I'd rather see an A+ gun than an SS gun. I'd honestly rather see a B+ gun than an SS gun. But that's that for this video. I'll have another one eventually, and I'll see you whenever I make those, I guess.